right, welcome to episode 21 of the At Bat Baseball podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez along with Miles Porter. How are we doing today, man?
Yo, what's good? Doing good. Doing good. Lots of funny baseball stuff going on in the baseball world. There's a lot to talk about. So like every episode, look forward to dive into this.
Oh yeah, and of course, yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, there's just a lot. It's been, I feel like, a goofy couple of weeks of just random stuff happening in baseball, popping up and stuff. Whether it be good or bad, it's just like so random. But
Yeah, yeah,
um, anyway, so give us a quick update on the Milwaukee Jaguars. Your team over the weekend. What went on? 'Cause I think was it the playoffs this weekend or was it? Yeah,
yes,
right. Okay.
yes. We won our playoff game this weekend, 13-0, against a very competitive baseball team whose name I won't say. No, I'm kidding. I got respect for those guys a lot. Um, yeah, it was intense. It was an intense game. There's a lot of back and forth going on, but I think that's like one of the most beautiful parts about this game is like the passion from both sides. And I just, it was fun. It was a fun game. I'm happy that we got that first one out the way. Now, we're looking to next weekend and taking care of business there and just bringing it home.
Now, is it like a bracket? Like what round are you in next week, for example?
I think next weekend we're in the semifinals.
Oh, okay, bet. And that's single game elimination.
Single game elimination, and then the championship series is best of three.
Oh, okay, there you go. That's sick. That's sick. Well,
Yeah.
best of luck, Miles. I'm sure you'll keep us updated, of course. And or I will ask this too. Also, like what did your stats all look over the weekend?
The defense was incredible. No, it was one of those weekends where it was a lot of very hard contact right at people. So it's one of those parts of baseball where you kind of shrug your shoulders, like, all right. I mean, I'm doing my part. The contact is
Mhm.
good. Sometimes you hit the ball and it's right at people, and that's really what happened this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you hit the ball hard, right? It's like
Yeah,
you feel at least a little bit good about. I'm sure about the at bat compared to
yeah,
like a measly fly out or something like that. But
right,
hey, there you go.
yeah, yeah.
And you're gonna have plenty of opportunities else to showcase the MVP skills,
Oh,
in the next game. You already
hey,
know.
that other team that did their research, they were talking all about my stats. they were giving it to me. I was like, yep, got it. And I'm such a
It's
friendly guy too. Like I'm not even like a big trash talker either.
yeah.
They're like MVP, more like over 3. Ha ha ha.
Oh my
I'm like,
god.
I'm like, thanks guys.
Oh my
So I'm
god.
like, all
Yeah,
right,
for
yeah,
real.
sure. I mean, I could talk trash, but like, I don't know. I like to keep it friendly. But it was funny. It was a funny game. But I'm coming this weekend. They ruined it for the next
Yeah, for real. It's like
team.
you poke the bear, you have to deal with the consequences,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
As friendly as I am, I'm not the one to talk trash to. But we'll let the
for real.
performance do the speaking for
There you
itself
go.
this
There
week.
you go. Hell yeah. All right. So we'll start off with the White Sox this week. Um, they of course we talked about them like last week when we were like um going over the Astro series and just how that the beginning of the series we were like, man, is this are the White Sox officially back? Like, is this kind of is this it? And to be honest, after that series, I was like, yeah, no, not quite there. They ended up losing the last two games of the series. It literally, the Astros flipped the script completely. In game three, the one that was going on as we were recording last week, the Astros ended up holding down the Sox and winning 3-2. And then the finale was 21-5. They completely annihilated Sox pitching. 25 Houston hits. Giolito allowed 7 runs. The series in general just kind of encapsulated the Sox season. And I feel like I've said that a million times this year because just like some series have just been so inconsistent and just so blaring as to like the Sox issues. And it's also just Giolito too. Like we've said it multiple times too that like, he's obviously had a tough season. And when he's on, he's the Sox ace. And this year it just really hasn't been anywhere near Giolito stuff. Like it's been pretty bad. So kind of it showed up in that fourth game of the Astros series. they ended up also playing the Guardians over the weekend, which was gonna be another big series. Sox ended up losing the first one. They got struck out 14 times by Tristan McKenzie, the All Star. Then the Sox went, or in that same game, excuse me, the Sox went up 2-0. But Cleveland came back. They pulled the Sox on them. And came back and won 5-2. In game two, it was Johnny Cueto, man. Johnny Aces. He went in there and nearly went complete game shutout. He was pulled at 8 2/3. But the Sox win 2-0. Cueto went on to win the co-player of the week. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of like all week. It was guys like Abreu and Robert kind of continuing to propel the offense for the Sox. Moncada kind of cooled off after the Houston series, but really just kind of tell me like what's your take on just another Sox week. It's just been like for 2022. This is another average White Sox week where they underachieved. Um, they didn't necessarily like one game they got their butts kicked, but like the whole week it was just kind of they could have done this better or they could have done that, and if they did this, they could have easily won this series or
Yeah,
whatever. So yeah, go ahead.
yeah. It's one of those. This is, and I've said it multiple times. This is who the White Sox are. I think really this season has been a bit of a train wreck, and there are many points throughout this season where I was holding out hope for this squad. But this is who they are. Everything is just gone off. Everything's just kind of gone off. It's been derailed. Um, injuries cannot stay away from them. You got injuries. You got guys that aren't hitting very well. You got defensive errors. You know, aside from a few shining stars, and Dylan Cease, and when you look at Johnny Cueto as well, this is a team that is just completely, like it's in shambles. It's a squad that's in shambles. I think it's one thing to sit here and for me to say the White Sox need to find it because I think they know what they have to find within themselves, but due to how there has been a, a lack of pretty much everything this year, and it's like a mixture of underachieving and underperforming. It's disappointing. It's very disappointing. This team cannot stay away from the injuries. Kopech goes down, Grandal on the 10-day IL with a knee injury. Obviously, we still got Tim Anderson out, and it goes on and on. It's unfortunate for the squad because we all know how talented they are, and I think that's where a lot of this criticism comes from. Um, and I pointed out the highlights within the pitching staff, but I have so much respect for Jose Abreu and Luis Robert for kind of jumpstarting that offense the way that they have been, but it's not enough. They're doing their part, but this is a culmination of issues that are continuing, and it kind of feels like certain things are starting to pile on to each other. So it's unfortunate that this has been the White Sox season, but hopefully there is some learning curves going on within the management because you can't give up on the squad. You're obviously not going to sell next year or whatever. That's not going to happen. That'd be very foolish. But I think there's a lot of things to look at this year and take away from and kind of reflect. I'm saying this is August 23rd. I'm not giving up on this season, but if someone's gonna ask me, do I think the White Sox are going to go far in the playoffs if they make it? No. And I think most people understand that concept. I think there's a lot of reevaluation that has to go into September and next year specifically.
Yeah, no, and I think like you know it's like deja vu every week, like with the Sox and just the way they're playing, and it's like not, and the thing is too is that they're getting super lucky in the sense of the competition, right? It's like the Indians, or sorry, excuse me, the Guardians and the Twins are just getting like they're not playing great baseball either, right? And it's like ultimately they're leaving, they're leaving an opportunity for the Sox on the table. And the Sox just aren't taking it. You know what I mean? Like if the Sox all season, and this is goes the same for the Twins and the Guardians, like if the Sox had picked it up and went on like an I don't know 8-9 game winning streak, they'd be in first place easily. No matter where the winning streaks like was there. Like I think maybe the Twins had one hot spurt in the season, but like no team has really gone off the rails and went on a giant winning streak to like separate themselves in the division. Right now, the Sox are just 3 games out of first place in the Central. The Twins are 2 games behind the Guardians. And we said it last week. Probably the route is for the Sox is probably not going to be the wild card, but I mean there's still 4 games out of a wild card spot anyway. So the opportunity is still there again, but it's just like so many things have to fall into play. And the thing is, the later you get in the season, which I mean we're getting to the point anyways, but the later you get in the season and the more behind the as behind as you are right now in the division and the standings in general, like the more the your destiny lies in someone else's hands. It has nothing to do with you could keep winning games, but right now the Sox are really just dependent on Guardians losing games, Twins losing games for them to get any higher because it's just not looking like the Sox are going to go on a run anytime soon to solidify a spot in the Central. You look at how favorable their schedule is, and we talked about it. Heading out of the All Star break is how favorable the Sox schedule was, and Sox haven't really taken advantage of it. I mean, it's really just like the one time they went out and like we thought like again we said we thought they were back is when they went on a little 5 game winning streak, and even then they've come back to earth, lost 3 in a row, and just lost 4 out of the last 5. So now, and they will go on now to face Baltimore, Arizona, and then come back to play Kansas City and Minnesota. So it's not going to let up anytime soon. It's going to be still. And the thing is, you look at Kansas City and you're like, it's a favorable matchup, but it just hasn't been that way. Like the Kansas City Royals have beat the Sox again 4 out of the last 5 games, and it just has been baffling to watch those games. So it's like as much as you look at the schedule and you're like, yes, Sox can win that. Sox can win that. And they every week they just disappoint. They're like, yeah, it doesn't come to fruition. And yeah, and as you mentioned too, is like Kopech going down, Grandal going down. It's like it's just never ending story with them and with the injuries. And at least with Grandal, you hope it's not serious. Same with Kopech and his knee soreness. You hope it's not serious. Luckily they've gotten guys like Elvis Andrews that they got a body in there to get some at bats, and he had a two RBI hit the other day. Hopefully he can continue to do that, but yeah, it's starting. It is frustrating from all aspects. And then the thing is too is like they also this came up earlier last week that the team leaders had a meeting to I guess go over the team's cockiness and like I don't really know how to like take that, right? It's like I don't know if the team like thinks they're too cocky or this and that, but I feel like they're less cocky than they have been in other years just because of the position they're in. Um yeah, I don't know what did you think when you heard about that, because I'm just like I was kind of it was kind of weird to me because of the timing and because I mean Tim Anderson's not even playing, for example, and like he's and don't get me wrong, I love his game, but I guess if you want to categorize him as cocky, like you probably can. But yeah, what did you think about like the Sox having a meeting to talk about their cockiness?
Yeah, I think it's like for the kind of season that they're having, there's always those meetings that take place. And it could be a matter of cockiness with some players, and I think with cockiness comes with an individual mindset. So when you're there's a difference between players feeling cocky and and feeling and being confident. Um, I think there's a little bit of humbling that probably went on during that conversation. And like I was saying, I think there's maybe been some players who have been playing for themselves who it's not really for me to speculate, but I do believe that conversation is necessary. But I hope that's not the only thing that they were focusing on. I hope it was a conversation that also involved some sort of spark, some sort of mental reset that this squad can have. The last thing that you want to do is point fingers, is play the blame game. You know, you don't want to do that. I think something that is so good is to have some sort of accountability that goes on within the clubhouse. Address things that need to be improved on, and then after that, you gotta inspire each other. You gotta motivate each other to be the best versions of yourselves that you can as a player, as a teammate. Um, you have a job to do. It's not about and as much as we glorify different players' stats and everything, it's a team game. And obviously, baseball is one of those games where we see it last night with the Cubs, and we'll touch on that. It could just be one moment that can change an entire game. That could be the pinnacle of that game right there. But it takes a team. It takes a team. That's why it's a team sport. And I think that the White Sox organization as a whole recognize that. So along with them, touching on the different egos that are going on, I hope that the main part of that conversation was how can they turn this season around, and the egos play a part in that. But if we're going to talk about it as a whole, if I'm the manager, if I'm LaRussa, if I'm the head of this team or a captain of this team, we're going to touch on that. And then what I'm more concerned about is what can we do? How can we adjust our mindset to be the best Chicago White Sox team that we can be?
Yeah, and it's like also not to mention in at this point of the season, it's like the last thing you need is some kind of is more of the drama, more of like the kind of um polarizing stuff to happen. And
Yeah,
the Sox have, and we both know Sox have had plenty of that all season, whether it's Tony La Russa, whether it's a players getting suspended like Tim Anderson, whether we agree with it or not, it's
yeah,
just something that's in the media. It's there, Lance Lynn, stuff like that. So it's like they don't need that with the way the season is going.
yeah.
Um, but
I made that same point with the Mets going into the
yeah,
season, if you remember.
yeah, yeah.
Keep the drama to a minimum. The drama
Mm-hmm,
100% affects how you perform on
mm-hmm,
the field. And just like you said, there's been so much drama with the White Sox this year, off the field, on the
mm-hmm.
field, suspect everything, and it is all impacting what we're seeing every single day. So yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, and what's funny is that like as much as in New York, you're always gonna have something like I mean, we in Chicago, obviously it's a big media town, but uh, it's not probably as crazy as New York is. There's always gonna be something in New York where the media is gonna talk about because they have to, they need to find something. But the Mets have been pretty clean all season, right? If I can remember correctly, and they're one of the best teams in baseball. So it's just like goes to show, maybe, you know what I mean? It's like everyone is on the same page. Everyone stays out of each other's way in a positive way, and just like let everyone do their job, chill out, and things like this could happen. Good things could happen. So, um, yeah. I mean, we'll see. Only time will tell with the White Sox, and they have all the time in the world still to um, get back on the horse and be able to make a run. So hopefully they could do it. Like I said, they got 3 at Baltimore, which is going to be a tough series. I mean, we saw the Cubs play the Orioles as well recently, and we see why they're such a good team. I mean, they have great pitching, and their players just fundamentally sound. So Sox are going to have their hands full in that series. They got Arizona for 3 at home, but even then, it's not going to be an easy game. They're just not familiar with the Diamondbacks, so playing them at Guaranteed Rate Field will be something to watch. We're going to shift over now to the Cubs, who are 52-69. They beat the Nationals 2 games out of 3. Then they beat the Orioles in a single game. It was a makeup game. They ended up winning that series as a whole. And then they beat the Brewers 2 games out of 3. So the Cubs' great second half continues, which is, again, weird to say, but they just have been able to, get win after win and division win after division series win after win. And, you know, especially, you know, when you play teams like the Brewers and the Cardinals, it's just great to, you know, beat those teams because they're ahead of you and you can affect the playoff standings. It's nice to do. And they've just been showing like this like never say die attitude, right? It's like every game, like they're not out of it. If they're gonna come back late, they're gonna come back late. And it's just been really fun, honestly fun to watch in the second half. Like it compared to the first half and just some of the low points. Like it has actually been fun to watch. It's just been they've kind of been running, I guess you could say, running on all cylinders because the starters have been doing well. I mean, I think just the only kind of speed bump has been Keegan Thompson, but we talked about it before where he kind of reached his innings limit. So it might be a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of that. But yeah, Justin Steele just being Justin Steele and being impressive, Stroman being impressive, you know, Drew Smiley, just going down the line. And it's, you know, Cubs really have been able to set the tone in the second half and it might go on to you know to next year. So kind of what did you think and what was your I guess highlight of the week in amongst those series for the Cubs?
Oh my gosh, it is so many different highlights, so many different things that I could point to. I think to start off, I just love how the Cubs recognize that right now, just play ball, just play baseball. That's it. It's like when you're a kid going to little league and you're just playing to enjoy the game. That's what the Cubs are doing right now. There's no expectations on this season. I think one of my biggest highlights from that past week of baseball is Nick Magical. I think that he has. I loved his approach, and I was at the 8-7 win, which was one of the coolest Cubs games that I've been to. I love going every year with the Aaron Water show going on. It's one of my favorite things to do every single year. Obviously that day they were more like practicing, they're more performing for the fans at Wrigley. Even better. Oh my gosh. I think that this the Cubs always do this thing after the trade deadline in August, September, where they play some of their best baseball. Because I think they realize like, you know what? Let's just go out there and perform. And you know, playing at Wrigley is obviously something very special. And they got one heck of a fan base behind them. You know, offensively, I think it's been very fun to watch this squad. You know, we talked about the starters. I just love this really good team baseball going on right now. I think they welcomed Franmil Reyes very very well with open arms. Um, I think there's so many great things to look forward to when it comes to this Chicago Cubs ball club, and you know it makes me excited, man. It makes me excited for this team in the future. Wilson he's been on fire. He's been spectacular behind the plate as well. So many things to point to. So many things to point to, and it's just very, very good Chicago Cubs baseball. And even though they lost last night, that was a good game in itself. It was one pitch. It was one pitch that got hit over the wall, and you know I thought Drew Smiley was solid that entire game. Albert Pujols, this is Albert Pujols. You know what I mean? That's one of the best hitters of all time, and we're blessed to still see him playing right now, to still see him performing at such a high level and the tear that he's been on lately. It's you know it's been incredible. So hats off to this ball club. You know, it's always great to see the Cubs win and you know have a good time at Wrigley. So there's a lot to feel good about when it comes to you know being a fan of the North Siders.
Yeah, and I think also too another thing, and as you mentioned, like Madrigal and just like you know Reyes and stuff. I think it's kind of cool to also have a set lineup, and I think that like it's been like that for like a couple of weeks now, where it's like you know Madrigal, Contreras, like Hap, Suzuki, Reyes, Horner, kind of up and down. Morel most of the time batting ninth, which you know he's been doing what fine there. So, um, yeah, it's sort of like regardless of the standings, they really are just going out there and performing, and you know, kind of, you know, people always say it's easy. I think it's easy for even a losing team to enjoy playing baseball because of the fans at Wrigley Field, like the way they pack the house, and stuff like that. When no matter what the record is, I'm sure that gives you an extra like you know jolt, and no matter who you're facing at home, like every game is a playoff game. Stroman kind of alluded to it when they had talked about or when they interviewed him the other day, and he was saying, like he loved to play the rest of his career here, just the way the fans are and the way that they are still behind us regardless of the standings and stuff. And yeah, it's just cool to hear that. And the thing is too is like I think it was Nico Horner that said that these games are big. The second half is a big deal for them because the more they win, um the more it shows that next year they could come back and be a competitive team, and it shows free agents that they could be competitive next year. And it could be like, hey, we're just missing this, or hey, by the way, we're just missing this, and we'll be back. That's a good thing to to kind of convince a team, a player like Carlos Correa or Xander Bogart, stuff like that, to come here and to show them that they're the missing piece. And I think and I never and I, to be honest, like as much as we've said that this could lead into next year, really didn't even think about that in that perspective. So it's really fascinating the way the players put it and the way that they're kind of putting their heads down and saying, what, we want players to come here, we want to win. So how about we win now, and it won't benefit us in the season, but it'll benefit us in the long run to kind of get guys here. And yeah, and I think the way that these players have been playing in series like the Brewers and series like the Cardinals, it does kind of like give you a little bit of a preview of like what they can play in big games. Like Madrigal, the way he played in that win against the Brewers, which, man, I mean, that's like that win against the Brewers on Saturday was like maybe game of the year for the Cubs. It was resilient hit after resilient hit, and just like being able to come back off Devin Williams and put some good at bats against Williams and be able to get that win is a big deal. And yeah, and like that, uh, you know, being able to beat the Nats, obviously one of the worst teams in baseball, if not the worst, I believe. The Orioles, another great team. It's another team that's going to, as we said before, looking to be in the playoffs. And then the Brewers, who kind of showing their true colors in the sense that they're in second place. They're well behind the Cardinals now. I think 5 games, and kind of showing the Cardinals are just a better team, and they just are. Like when we said this too earlier in the season, like the way that the Midwest has been playing baseball this year has not been good. Like it's just not been good, a good brand of baseball in general. But the Cardinals are the class of the Central in every way. Like they just are, regardless of it. Biases aside, like Cardinals are just the best team in the Midwest right now. They're better than any team in the AL Central, in my opinion. So I think they've been doing what they have to do. And they've just gotten better. They look like they really want to win. And the thing is, they're gonna be a problem for someone in the playoffs, as they always are. It's nothing new, of course. The Cardinals could finish like with the worst record in the postseason and still make a run. So we've seen that before. And with guys like Jordan Montgomery that we saw last night, it just clearly shows that they're trying to make a run, and they don't fear teams like the Dodgers and stuff like that. But we'll see. Obviously, come playoff time, it's when it'll really come on. And the thing is, if you told me that the Cardinals make a World Series run, I would not be surprised. Like it's just I don't think they will ultimately, but like if they did, I'm like, of course they did, right? It's like the Cardinals, they have a couple of MVP candidates, and
Yeah,
their pitching has been stellar. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, with that game last night with Jordan Montgomery, that was a great performance by him, and of course, like you talked about Pujols, man. I mean Pujols. I mean, yeah, what can you say? I mean, the dude is unbelievable, and the thing is too also is uh, I feel like as every game that he plays against the Cubs, he homers. It just
oh my gosh,
every time, especially at Wrigley. At Wrigley, like he's always gonna hit a bomb. He's got
man.
30 career homers at Wrigley. I mean, that's nasty. That doesn't make any sense. He's got a full season like stats at Wrigley.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So I think, I
goodness.
mean, I can't wait for him to hit 700. I think it's awesome if he, when he hits 700, he might do it this series because of how many home runs he hits at Wrigley.
Right. I'm
But
hoping he does. I want him to get to
yeah,
700 so bad. Do it
yeah,
at Wrigley? Oh my gosh.
dude, and you know what's funny too is like I'm just thinking to myself, like how cool would it be for him not like how cool would it for him to get it at Wrigley and not at Busch Stadium? You know what I mean? It's like
Right, yeah, yeah.
it's just a little like hell yeah, and get a
Yeah,
get
yeah. Oh,
card of it,
haha. He's it happened here. He kicked our butts here.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, we'll take every little win that we can while we
Yeah,
can get
exactly.
it. But yeah, other than that, the other notes that we have for the Cubs is really it's a couple on the injury side. Patrick Wisdom hurt his hand in a slide in that Brewers series. He was day to day last time I saw his X-rays were negative. And then Kyle Hendricks, his year's over officially after a capsular tear. That's the way his season has gone, and it's been negative from a stat perspective, from a performance perspective. Maybe that's what was bothering him. I hope so, right? It's like you hope it's an injury thing. You hope that he can come back next year and be a big help for us. Um, but what we will see, definitely a lot, for that to happen. But again, the Cubs have 4 more games against the Cardinals. It's a 5 game series. Again, which I feel like we've had like 5 of those against the Cardinals this year and the Brewers. And then of course we face the Brewers again, and that's actually for the last time this season. Well, last time we'll see the Brewers this season will be this weekend at American Family Insurance Field. So it's going to be nice to be able to have an opportunity to get a winning record against them, because I believe we have a winning record against them at the moment. So yeah, the Cubs again, 52-69, and just kind of pushing through. Hopefully they can continue that and get a series win against the Cardinals this week. A couple things around Major League Baseball also is uh Little League World Series game was this Sunday, and I thought that was like a fun little thing that Major League Baseball does every year. And we kind of talked about it before we got on. Is like they had a kids cast, and I thought it was hilarious just because like having kids commentate a baseball game is just funny to me, and live TV too, like all the stuff they said on like they'd be like, I just thought it was funny because like you know they'd be talking about Xander Bogaerts stats, and then and then all of a sudden they talk about how Xander Bogaerts loves to dance or something. Like it's just funny to me. But the game was also cool. I mean, the Orioles and Red Sox, and game went down to the wire, and Orioles ended up winning that one. But it's just cool to see. What were your thoughts on that game? And just kind of like the Cubs were in it a few years ago. But I think it's one of those games that like I hope they keep doing every year, because it's kind of the cool collaboration between the kids and the players, and also it does a
Yeah.
lot for the game, right? If you think about it, like it kind of for those kids meeting Major League Baseball players, like they might, you not only will you create a fan for life, but I mean they might want to keep playing baseball for life, so yeah.
Yeah, those are memories that you don't forget, and it's really cool to get like kids' perspectives, because it's such a more loose kind of view when it comes to so many things. And when I'm coaching the kids that I work with, so many of the different little funny comments that they make. I'm like, yeah, of course. I've heard some of my players say these things, and it's just fun. It's so good for the game. It's important to see, you know, little leaguers watch the big leaguers shake hands with each other after a game. Obviously, that's not something that happens in pro ball, but it shows good sportsmanship. I think these games showcase a lot of good sportsmanship. Um, and it was fun when the Cubs were in it last year, and I thought this year was a great game as well. So it's something that I love when the MLB does it, because it's such an outreach aspect of baseball that I think we're getting back to slowly. Um, but just in terms of this event alone, I love it. I love every second of it, and it's what makes baseball special. This is the type of memories. If I was a kid and I was there, I wouldn't stop talking about it for the rest of my life. I wouldn't shut up. So this is something amazing all around. I love it.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine like with those like the what's going through those kids' heads, like meeting like Bogarts and like Rafael Devers and Cedric Mullins and all. It's pretty awesome. Another thing too, before we go, I did want to talk about the division standings, and I was kind of looking at them, and it's like you always get to that point of the season where you're just kind of like these. It's just there's no going back. Like these divisions are basically done. We got like a month left of baseball in the regular season, which is really crazy now that I think about it. Um, but when you look at the divisions like the AL East, whether regardless of whether what the Yankees are, doing, like they're struggling or whatever, they're still 8 games up on the Rays. Um, then you look at the AL West, and the Astros are still 11 and a half games ahead of the Mariners. Um, then you have the NL West, where
Mhm.
they're 17 and a half games ahead of the Padres. The Dodgers are. It's Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, those divisions are done. I mean, what's your take on that? Like, you look at some of these, and it's just like there's no point. I mean, the Padres they have a good chance of still making the playoffs, where it comes from the wild card perspective. But it's like at that point, you just don't even look at the division anymore.
Yeah, yeah. You look at the NLS, that's pretty much said and done. I think the Mets are gonna stand pretty. I think they're gonna be pretty much 10 toes down for the rest of the season. But the Braves still are kind of behind them a little bit, kind of on them a little bit. Just 3 games back. So, there's a chance that does change, but I doubt it. Yeah, looking at the AL East, even with the Yankees being as abysmal as they've been, they're still 8 games. They're still 8 games ahead of the Rays. So I don't see that really, really changing at all. Yeah, I guess one of the cool things you can maybe say about the AL Central is that because a lot of these teams haven't performed all that great, it is still a pretty close race, kind of. So there's that aspect, and then obviously the AL West is the AL West, and the Astros are going to go back to the playoffs as they always do. So I agree. I agree with the except like literally like the only division I look at is the AL Central, and I'm like, okay, well, that can go either way. So yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, the Central's probably the AL Central. Now that I think about it, is probably going to be the craziest divisional race. Now, the
Yeah,
wild card races are probably going to, they're still going to be intense, just because of teams are going to be close anyways. I mean, I think really just the Braves are kind of a lock. The Braves look like they're a lock for a wild card spot. Whether they have a chance of still winning the division, but if they don't win the division, Mets and the Braves are going to make it from a wild card perspective. They're just that good. In the On the other side in the American League, the Rays are in first place in the wild card, and they just have a half game lead. So that race is also going to be intensified come the weeks ahead. And I think it's the best time of the year for that. And I think that it's cool to have a team from our city in that race, and it's going to be the White Sox that are going to be competing every day to scratch and claw their way to the playoffs. And hopefully they do. Hopefully they get there. I mean, they have all the pieces, and if they could get healthy and get everything done, then obviously they'll get there. So, but yeah, other than that, it's definitely looking good for teams that for teams like, for example, like the Mariners. They have a two and a half game lead over the Orioles. But stories like that also, like the Orioles and the Mariners, teams that haven't um necessarily, they haven't been in the playoffs, for a while. So it's cool for them to kind of get a little bit of a jolt there. And maybe even, the with the way the Padres, that their situation with Tatis, them making to the playoffs will also be good for them, and kind of having, Soto kind of, maybe rejuvenate the fan base and kind of give them more something to cheer for. And even the Phillies too. I mean, they I think when we talked about them earlier in the season, I didn't expect them to be where they're at right now, with
right. Yeah,
defensively, but
yeah,
Thompson's been able to take over in the manager's spot, and get it done, and they've been having a winning record under him. So
yeah.
um we'll see where things go, but plenty of time for some of the teams. It's just, it's a month of baseball left. But still, a lot of it still lies in a lot of teams' hands. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll basically wrap it up for this episode of the At Bat Baseball Podcast, episode 21, presented by War Media. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with Miles Porter. For until next week, see you later.